There's a moment, quiet, invisible, where you stop chasing the thing you think you need, and instead, you begin to remember who you are. That moment is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's not a grand ceremony, but a breath, a softening in the chest, a stillness in the spine. And in that stillness, you glimpse it. The truth that the abundance you've been reaching for is not outside of you. It never was. It's not waiting on a bank transfer, a job title, a perfect plan. It lives in the space between your thoughts. It pulses beneath the skin. The frequency of abundance is not something to get. It's something to become, something to notice, to reveal. You felt it before, in those strange moments when life seems to bend toward you, when the parking space opens just as you arrive, when a friend calls you the moment you needed to feel held, when the breeze hits your skin in a way that makes you remember the miracle of your body. That's not coincidence. That's coherence. That's you, momentarily tuned to the station of abundance, the station that never stops playing. The question is not whether it's broadcasting. The question is whether you're listening. Quantum jumping doesn't create abundance. It simply peels away the layers of distortion that kept you from seeing it was already yours. It's not a leap into something new. It's a falling away of everything false, an unlearning, a return. Imagine a mirror fogged by breath. For years you've stared at it, trying to fix the reflection. But no matter how much you adjust your posture, the image stays unclear. Then one day, instead of adjusting yourself, you wipe the glass. And there you are, clear, whole, already abundant. That's the quantum shift. Not a doing, a seeing. You've been trained to believe abundance is a finish line, a reward, something earned through effort, strategy, striving. But what if it's the opposite? What if the more you push, the more you signal to reality that you are separate from the thing you want? What if wanting is not a map, but a mirror, reflecting the parts of you that feel unworthy of receiving? Because here's the secret. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are, not from effort, from essence. And essence can't be earned. It can only be remembered. This remembrance happens not in the mind, but in the body, when the nervous system feels safe enough to let go of the chase, when the breath deepens, when the grip softens. That's where the real quantum work begins, not in visualizations that strain, but in frequencies that soothe, in the way you sit with your own longing, in the way you stop running from the present moment and start inhabiting it, fully, tenderly. Abundance reveals itself when you become a safe place for it to land. Not because you conquered your scarcity, but because you stopped identifying with it. And here's the paradox. The less you need abundance to prove your worth, the more it flows toward you, because you're no longer repelling it with resistance. You're resonating with it. That's the difference. That's the collapse. The timeline where you are abundant doesn't exist in the future. It exists in the now, in this breath, in this choice to believe you're already enough. Can you feel it? That subtle shift inside, like a door cracking open. You don't need to kick it down. You just need to walk through. Or better yet, remember, you were never locked out. I used to think I had to earn it, that I had to become better, clearer, more healed, more productive. That abundance would arrive once I finally reached some invisible finish line. I remember the ache of it, the constant sense of not yet, the tightness in my chest every time I looked at my bank account or tried to plan my way into security. It was like trying to breathe underwater, like chasing sunlight through a fog. No matter how fast I ran, it always felt just out of reach. But what I didn't realize then is that I was trying to attract abundance from the vibration of lack. My frequency said, I am not yet whole, and the universe, infinitely precise, infinitely obedient, matched me, not out of punishment, out of coherence, out of love. Because the quantum field doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are being. And I was being someone who didn't believe they were already enough. I was being someone trying to prove, perform, earn. And every effort echoed back the same truth. Not yet. Not yet. The shift didn't happen all at once. It came like soft waves against the shore, eroding the illusion gently. It began in the pauses, in the moments I allowed myself to exhale without guilt, to rest without earning it, to feel the warmth of the sun and realize that nothing had to be added to this moment for it to be full. Those tiny moments were the cracks in the old code, the beginning of the reveal. Because the abundance I craved was never about money, or things, or outcomes. It was about the feeling, the frequency, the embodiment of enoughness. And that embodiment doesn't come from thinking new thoughts. It comes from becoming a new signal. When you relax your body into the truth that you are safe, worthy, already whole, that's when you jump. Not through force, through frequency, not through striving, through surrender. It's not about bypassing your human needs or denying your desires. It's about realizing that your deepest needs are already known by the field, already registered, already answered. You just have to stop resisting the answer. When you quantum jump, you're not leaping towards something far away.
You're collapsing the space between your identity and your essence, between your programming and your truth. You're aligning with the version of you who already remembers, and that version doesn't chase. She magnetizes. He doesn't hustle. He harmonizes. It's not about pretending you're abundant while secretly panicking underneath. It's about becoming so anchored in your inner wealth that the outer reflects it naturally, inevitably. You've already had moments of this.
Tiny quantum jumps that went unnoticed. A sudden clarity. A day that flowed with ease. A moment where your posture shifted and you felt taller. Not because of confidence, but because of alignment. That was abundance showing up. Not because you forced it. Because you allowed it. Because for a moment, you stopped arguing with your worth. You stopped trying to fix yourself and started being yourself. That's the real jump. And when you live from that space, even for a few minutes a day, your timeline begins to shift. Reality starts to reorganize. Not dramatically at first, but subtly, gently. You'll feel it in the way people respond to you, in the synchronicities, in the effortless clarity. The world begins to echo your new vibration. Because it must. That's the law. That's the field. That's coherence. Not as a reward for good behavior, but as a mirror of your embodied truth. And isn't that the real miracle? That the universe isn't testing you, it's reflecting you, not punishing, mirroring. Every moment, it holds up the vibrational truth of your being like a living, breathing echo. And when that echo begins to sound like safety, like self-love, like sufficiency, not in theory, but in your cells, everything changes. Because now, you're no longer sending out the frequency of waiting. You're broadcasting the signal of readiness, of, I am already home. And when you are home in yourself, abundance finds you like a river finding the ocean. It knows exactly where to flow. Most people think quantum jumping is about leaping timelines like it's a game of escape. But it's not about running from the current version of you. It's about embracing this version so fully, so compassionately that the next version unfolds naturally. It's like walking through a door that opens only when you stop trying to force it. The door is frequency locked. And the key is your being, not your effort, your coherence, your willingness to feel what's real, to stop negotiating with scarcity, to stop making your future self a stranger you hope to meet and instead become her now. Speak like her now. Breathe like him now. Love like them now. Every quantum jump begins with embodiment, not affirmation, not visualization alone, but with the body being the broadcast tower. When your nervous system feels safe enough to stop scanning for danger, you begin to access new dimensions of experience. Your field becomes magnetic, not because you're doing it right, but because you're no longer distorting your signal with self-doubt. You're no longer leaking energy into timelines that no longer match you. You're rooted, you're resonant, you're remembered. Think of a tuning fork. When struck, it vibrates with pure tone. If another fork nearby is tuned to the same frequency, it begins to vibrate too, without being touched. That's you. When you resonate in your truth, abundance doesn't need to be convinced. It just begins to vibrate with you. Opportunities find you. Resources flow to you. Not because you hunted them down, but because you became undeniable, not louder, truer. So many of us were taught to strive, to hustle, to prove. But what if abundance flows not from doing more, but from being more aligned? What if the most powerful quantum jump happens when you stop reaching and start radiating? When you stop proving and start presencing? That's when the field opens. That's when timelines fold. Because now, you're no longer chasing a version of reality. You're embodying it. And in that embodiment, time collapses. What you thought would take years arrives in weeks. What felt impossible begins to orbit closer. Not because you controlled it, but because you synchronized with it. Like two waves meeting and creating a bigger wave. Not from force, but from frequency, from coherence. And this is the part we often overlook. Abundance doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again. It means you'll stop letting fear write your identity. You'll feel it and stay. You'll breathe and open. You'll hold your frequency steady, even when doubt whispers. Because you've remembered that abundance isn't something to wait for. It's something to become, something to embody, something that was never gone, only hidden beneath the noise. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is slow down. Not because slowing down fixes anything, but because it lets you feel what's really here. Most of us are moving too fast to notice the abundance that's already woven through our lives like threads of light. We mistake momentum for progress. We confuse effort with value, but the quantum field doesn't speak in speed, it speaks in signal, and signal is clearest when we're still. Have you ever watched a leaf floating on water? It doesn't swim, it doesn't push, it rides the current because it trusts the flow. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's quantum alignment, and your life too has a current, an intelligent, unseen rhythm that wants to carry you if you let it. But letting go feels dangerous when your nervous system has been trained to equate safety with control. So we cling, we plan, we brace, all while the very thing we want waits just beyond our grip, whispering, "Soften, soften." That's why embodiment is not a spiritual luxury. It's a survival key. When you regulate your nervous system, you change your access. You shift from survival timelines to sovereign ones, from compensation to creation. You stop living reactively and start creating magnetically, not by avoiding fear, but by expanding your capacity to hold joy, peace, and desire without self-abandonment. That's when abundance feels safe to stay, not because you've earned it, but because your field says, "I can hold this." And holding abundance is often harder than attracting it, because it asks you to receive, to trust, to rest in your worth without needing to prove it. Most of us don't have a receiving problem. We have a self-worth filter. We let things in only to the level we believe we deserve. So we manifest the job, but sabotage the peace. We meet the person, but question the love. We make the money, but can't feel secure. Because deep down, we're still vibrating with an outdated identity, still signaling separation, still echoing lack. But here's the beautiful truth. Every identity can be rewritten, not by force, by choice, by resonance. Every time you choose to respond from your embodied self instead of your programmed self, you shift timelines. Every time you breathe instead of brace, soften instead of solve, embody instead of escape, you send a new signal into the field. And the field, like a faithful mirror, rearranges. This is the quiet revolution. Not more doing, more remembering. That your power is not in what you produce, but in what you embody. That the abundance you seek is not a destination. It's a vibration, and that vibration becomes accessible the moment you stop abandoning yourself in pursuit of it. When you bring your awareness back into your body, into your breath, into this moment, you collapse the illusion of separation. You arrive in now, and now is where everything happens. So feel into it, right here, right now. Where is abundance already living in your life? Not in the obvious ways, but in the way you're still breathing, in the way your body has carried you, even when your mind doubted, in the laughter you forgot to count, in the moments of peace between thoughts. That's it. That's the frequency. Subtle, quiet, powerful, and always available. Because you're not waiting for abundance. You are remembering it. And every breath that brings you home to yourself is a quantum jump already complete. There's a sacred moment, often unnoticed, where you stop outsourcing your power and start reclaiming it. Not with a roar, but with a whisper. A whisper that says, "I am enough now. I choose to feel it now." This is the turning point, the inflection, where your inner world begins to speak louder than your outer circumstances, where your frequency becomes more real to you than your fears. And that shift? It's everything. Because manifestation is not about summoning something from the void. It's about becoming the frequency that can hold what's already yours in the quantum. I remember a morning where everything outside looked the same. Same bills, same uncertainties. But something in me had shifted. I stood by the window, light spilling onto the floor, and for no logical reason, I felt rich, not in money, in presence, in knowing. My breath slowed, my shoulders dropped, and in that moment, I realized, this is the abundance I've been chasing. This quiet knowing that I am already whole, that I am already resourced. That the field doesn't respond to what I say, it responds to the signal I broadcast when I remember who I am. You don't need to be fearless to be magnetic. You just need to stop confusing your fear with your truth. Fear is a signal, yes, but it's not your identity. It's not your essence. It's just a doorway, a question, and on the other side of it, expansion. Every quantum leap is preceded by resistance. Every new timeline requires a shedding, a death of the old code. And sometimes that death looks like stillness, like uncertainty, like not knowing what's next. But that liminal space, that's the field of pure potential. That's where the rewire happens. When you stay present through the discomfort, you recondition your nervous system to safety. You send a new signal into the quantum. I can hold the unknown. I can hold my desire without grasping. I trust the unfolding. And the field, in perfect resonance, begins to reveal the reality that matches that trust. Not as a reward, but as a reflection. Because you're not waiting on a future version of yourself to unlock the gate. You are the gate. The opening lives in you. This is why it matters how you speak to yourself when nothing seems to be happening. Those are the moments that build the bridge. The moments where you decide, before the evidence, before the outcome, that you are still abundant, still supported, still aligned. That is the signal that shifts everything. Not because it manipulates reality, but because it reveals the truth that was always there. That abundance is not conditional. It's constitutional. It's your native frequency. And when you anchor into that, when you remember it with your body, not just your mind, life starts to reorganize. Subtly at first, then swiftly. You'll meet people who speak your soul language. You'll notice ideas come effortlessly. You'll feel a softness in your chest where there was once only tension. And no, it won't always look dramatic, but it will feel unmistakably different. It will feel like flow, like alignment, like coming home. Because the real leap is not into more money, more love, more success. The real leap is into more self, more essence, more truth. And from that place, everything else becomes inevitable. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. There's a certain kind of magnetism that emerges when you stop trying to be impressive and start being real. When your energy no longer performs, but simply pulses with presence. This is the kind of abundance that can't be faked or fabricated. It must be felt. It must be lived. And it doesn't begin with strategy. It begins with honesty, with asking yourself, where am I still pretending I'm not already enough? Because pretending creates friction. It splits your signal. It confuses the field. You say you want abundance, but your frequency says, I don't believe I can have it. You visualize wealth, but vibrate with worry. You speak affirmations with your lips, while your body holds the memory of lack. And the quantum doesn't judge that, but it does reflect it. So you manifest not what you affirm, but what you embody. Not your hopes, your habits, not your words, your resonance. But here's the mercy in it all. Every moment, you are free to shift, not by escaping the old story, but by witnessing it with compassion, by holding your unmet needs, your old patterns, your survival strategies, not as flaws to be fixed, but as frequencies to be felt and then freed. Because the moment you stop judging yourself for being where you are, you begin to move. You begin to vibrate differently. And in that vibration, a new timeline begins to blink into view. It's not about pushing through. It's about softening into the breath, into the now, into the radical idea that you don't need to become more to be worthy of receiving. You just need to become more you, fully, authentically, audaciously. That's the real jump, the collapse of camouflage, the end of performance, the return to essence. Think of it like tuning a radio. When the dial is just slightly off, you hear static. The music's playing, but it's distorted. That's what happens when your identity doesn't match your desire. But when you align, when your beliefs, emotions, and embodiment all sing the same song, the music comes through clear. You don't have to find the signal. You just have to match it. And the matching doesn't happen in the mind alone. It happens when you let your nervous system believe what your soul already knows, that you are supported, that you are worthy, that you are already the version of you who lives in harmony with abundance. Not because you did everything right, but because you finally remembered. This was never about earning. It was about receiving, about allowing, about dropping into the dimension where abundance already exists, and realizing that dimension is you. Every time you pause to feel the sun on your face, every time you speak kindly to yourself in the mirror, every time you choose rest over hustle, honesty over hiding, presence over perfection, you are quantum jumping. You are becoming a match. You are peeling back the illusion of scarcity and revealing the richness that was always inside you. And yes, some days will still feel dense. Some patterns may echo louder before they fade. But even then, even in the thickness of the fear, there's a deeper knowing rising, a pulse of truth under the surface saying, keep softening, keep aligning. You're not going backward. You're being recalibrated. Your field is adjusting. Your timeline is responding. And every cell in your body is remembering, I was never separate. I was never broken. I was always abundance in motion. It's wild, isn't it? How the most powerful shift of your life can begin with something as simple as a breath. One conscious inhale that says, I choose presence. One exhale that whispers, I release the need to chase. That's the gateway. That's where the old story loosens its grip and the quantum field leans in closer. It listens, always, to your inner tone more than your outer words. And the tone that transforms timelines is peace, not perfection. Peace. This peace is not passive. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing from a place of knowing, from a foundation of worthiness so deep, your actions carry the weight of inevitability. You no longer try to convince life to give you something. You show up as someone who already lives in it. And the world rearranges not because you commanded it to, but because your field became a place where abundance recognizes itself. That's what happens when you align. You stop efforting and start emanating. You stop leaking energy into old identities and start radiating from your center. And in that radiance, timelines shift. Not always dramatically, but undeniably. You notice conversations feel richer, connections feel truer, time stretches, space softens, and what once felt out of reach now finds its way to you, not because it changed, but because you did. And the change wasn't about adding more. It was about releasing what wasn't yours, the inherited fears, the ancestral scarcity, the programming that said you had to prove. All of it was never you. It was the fog on the mirror. And now you are beginning to wipe it clean, with every moment of embodied truth, with every breath of self-compassion, with every pause that says, I no longer abandon myself for an imagined outcome, because the real manifestation isn't the thing. It's the self that receives it. The version of you who doesn't apologize for wanting, who doesn't shrink to stay safe, who doesn't perform to be seen. That version is not in the distance. She's just beneath the surface. He's right behind the next breath. And when you live as them, even for a moment, the quantum responds. The field shifts. And you realize, I was never creating abundance. I was allowing it. So allow it now, even before the external proof, even before the mind is ready. Let your body speak first. Let your frequency go ahead of you. Let the universe feel your yes, not in theory, but in tone. Say yes to the version of you who no longer negotiates her value, who no longer waits for confirmation, who lives the truth as if it's already here, because in the quantum, it is. You don't need to wait for evidence to embody the shift. The embodiment is the evidence. The vibration is the portal. And the more you trust that, the more life will rise to meet you. Not as a favor, but as a match. That's the law. That's the rhythm. That's the dance. Not one of force, but of frequency. Not one of reaching, but of remembering. You're already in it. You're already there. Let that land. Let it settle in your bones. And notice how everything begins to open. So here we are, at the edge of something you've always known, but maybe never fully claimed. That the abundance you've been chasing has been living within you all along. Not as a theory, not as a possibility, but as a present reality. Subtle, steady, waiting for your recognition. And now, something in you is awake. Not just your mind, but your field. Your entire being humming with the quiet knowing, I am already the one who has. I am already the one who is. This knowing doesn't make you louder. It makes you clearer. You walk differently, not with arrogance, but with anchored grace. Not to prove, but to express. Because when abundance becomes your essence, everything you touch carries its imprint. Your words soothe. Your presence activates. You no longer have to announce your worth. It speaks before you do. That's the power of a remembered self. That's the echo of embodiment. And the world, it feels it, responds to it. Because coherence is magnetic. Safety is magnetic. You become the place where timelines align, where solutions reveal themselves, where blessings gather, not out of obligation, but out of resonance. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you receive. You don't wait, you allow. And not because you've figured it all out, but because you've become congruent with your core. This is the paradox of quantum creation. The more you release your grip, the more life rushes in to meet you. The more you let go of needing, the more you enter into having. And the jump? It's less like a leap and more like a landing into presence, into power, into a version of you that was never gone, just quiet beneath the noise. So let the noise fade now. Let the old identities dissolve. Let the striving soften into stillness. And from that stillness, listen. What does abundance sound like in your body? What does it feel like in your breath? Not when you get the thing, but now, right now, before the outcome, before the arrival. Because this is the moment. This is the dimension where the quantum collapses into form, where frequency becomes flesh, where your yes becomes the gate. You are not preparing to be abundant. You are remembering you are abundance itself, not in a distant future, not in some upgraded version of your life, but here, in this beat of your heart, in this breath in your chest, in this grounded, glorious now. So breathe it in, feel it ripple, and as the world begins to rearrange around your new resonance, don't be surprised when the miracles feel familiar, when the blessings don't shock you, but feel like home, because deep down, you always knew. The abundance was never outside of you. It was always you.